Greetings, YouTube, and welcome to episode 202 of the 4,000 Question Challenge. Is there a chemical reaction to love? Well, there are those that have argued that love is nothing but a chemical reaction, and I think those people have no souls. That's hyperbole. I think they actually have souls. But I don't think they're in really good touch with those souls. So yes, I freely admit there probably is a chemical reaction to love. I just don't think it's completely chemical. How much absence should there be in a relationship to make the heart grow fonder? Well, I don't like to go much more than about 12 hours without seeing my wife. I literally like to be able to say hello to her and give her a hug and a kiss at least every 12 hours or so. And when she has to go away on trips, which is in the summertime fairly frequently, I'm often at Camp Widow. I miss her dearly. So I'm not a big believer in the whole absence makes the heart grow fonder thing. And I don't do well with long distance relationships. For a while, we were separated by a state, and we would see each other on the weekends. We would take turns. She'd come down from Maine to New Hampshire, and I'd go the other way. And I didn't much like that. I mean, I would spend an entire week without seeing her, even though we were in contact over the phone and via email. This is an era before I had a smartphone and I didn't need texting. So yeah, no, I'm not a big whole absent makes the heart grow fonder thing believer. How can we be more loving to one another? Be honest and be vulnerable. There you go. What is your anniversary date? Halloween! Would you rather fall in love and lose that person or never fall in love at all? That's a really tough one because love is great and I'm really a big believer in it. I have a real problem with abandonment issues and with loss. But if I had never ever known it, I think I would have longed for it in a way that long term would have been more detrimental to me than being in love and losing love. That's just me. It's going to vary for everybody. How long does it take a couple to work things out between them? If they use their words, it can be pretty darn fast, like in a conversation or within a very short time span. If they don't use their words, they may never work it out. Where did you get engaged and how was the marriage proposal made? Alrighty, funny story. I fell in love with my wife when I was still married to somebody else. And I would have married my wife the day after I'd been divorced. My wife was much more gun shy, as in really gun shy. For her to get around to the point where she finally decided she wanted to commit to me took 6 years. And I knew in that time span, if I asked my wife to marry me, she would have run off into the hills and I would have never seen her again. So I gave her the space she needed. Twice, she essentially broke up with me. And both times, I backed off and I said, let's take some time. Let's take some space between us. And I did. And she came back. Why? Because she was gun shy. She'd been married. It hadn't gone well. I understood this. Even though at the time I was not the most mentally healthy, I was at least that self-aware and that smart. So I knew I had to wait until my wife was going to come around to ask me. Okay, I'll wait. And come my birthday one year, she was living in Maine, as I mentioned, and I was at her place that weekend. And she had planned something, but weather got in the way. She was going to take me to go see a guy that was doing astronomical observation videos and such live and in place. So he had a really nice telescope hooked up to his system, his computer. So he was talking about the sky, then he was showing on a video screen what the telescope was seeing. So you could look at the sky, then you could look at the screen and get the full picture, if you will. And her goal was, she'd hooked up with him and said, hey, I want you to do this for me if you don't mind. That he was going to say, hey, we got something, a message coming in. And the message was going to be, James, would you marry Lara? That kind of thing. But weather got in the way. So instead, I'm sitting in her apartment. And at the time, my wife is wearing a stupid boot on her left foot. She had broken her ankle and had surgery and had 6 pins and an L bracket in her ankle. So she's wearing this big plastic boot on her foot. So she says, I want you to close your eyes and sit there. I'm going to get your birthday present. Okay. So I hear her walk away. I hear her coming back towards me. Ka-dunk, da-gunk, da-gunk. And she's carrying something. I can hear a paper bag. So she puts the paper bag down. She says, all right, open your eyes. And when I open my eyes, my wife's on one knee. She looks at me and says, James, will you marry me? I, of course, said yes. And my engagement gift, right over my shoulder. That 2-volume set right there, which is the Oxford English Dictionary. That was my engagement gift. I have my very own copy of the OED. And that's how we got engaged. There you go. I probably told this story before, but it's a good story. Do you purchase condoms in stores or by mail internet? Internet. What would you change in a current relationship and why? Well, I gotta tell you, I'm pretty happy with the relationship. But if I could make a positive change, we would have a lot more money. What is the difference between you and your partner that you value the most and one that you consider problematic? Wow, isn't that a question to start some fights? I mean, come on, man. All right, what is the difference between you and your partner that you value the most? Okay, while my wife is deeply passionate about many things, she is much more empathetic about issues and to the people in the world around her than I am. And I strive for empathy, but I am also a deeply angry person. Part of that, and I freely admit, is my upbringing. But part of it is that I am a student of history and of politics to a depth that my wife isn't. And I understand really deep how the system is broken and why the system is broken. And it makes it really hard to feel empathy for the people who have broken it. Now, I don't wish them ill, even though I would like to have some of them incarcerated. But I don't want them to suffer. I want them to have their power taken away so they can no longer hurt people. So we have some very different views of politics and social discourse. Because, as the saying goes, angry gets shit done. So she is far more of a Buddhist than I am. I respect Buddhas on a philosophical level. I am not really a Buddhist on a religious level. My wife is much closer to that. Alrighty, so that has been episode 202. It's been a bit longer than most of them. Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope that you will return for episode 203.